Look, people need to understand, ICE officers and Border Patrol, they don't need probable cause to walk up to somebody, briefly detain them, and question them. You know, get articulable facts based on their location, their occupation, their physical appearance.
We have a real serious problem in this. Well, we have many real serious problems in this country, but specifically the thing I want to talk about right now, and an adjacent point to it, is that the mainstream media is absolutely dropping the ball. It should be 24/7, wall-to-wall, bell-to-bell coverage of the militarization of ICE, of Border Patrol, of state and local police, of the National Guard on the streets of the United States. Donald Trump's secret police, and there's no other way to call them anything other than that. When their faces are masked, they have no name tags, there is no identification, they refuse to identify themselves, and they're kidnapping people off the streets of the United States. That's what secret police do. Donald Trump's Gestapo, or as Marjorie Taylor Greene would call them, gazpacho. And the media is failing by not putting this in front of people who aren't watching independent media on a regular basis. And Tom Homan, the border czar, the jackbooted fascist mushmouth dildo with ears, was on Fox News this morning, justifying what they're doing, decrying the polls that accurately reflect the opinions of the American people, that they're not cool with what's happening. I've got two clips here. One is that what I just said. The other is him declaring that they don't need probable cause to stop you. If you look the way they want you to look, they can stop you. So this is just signaling to the world that if you come here and you're brown, that's all the probable cause that any cop needs to detain you, to arrest you. This is wildly fascist. This is unconstitutional. At the very least, it's unconscionable. Watch Tom Homan, dumb guy extraordinaire, mush out some words from his suckhole onto the American people through Fox News.
Every day, and I said from day one, when President Trump became president, that they're going to vilify the men and women of ICE. They'll vilify the men and women of Border Patrol. They did it during the last administration, except this time, the rhetoric's at an all-time high. Every day I get up and I read the media posts at the White House, and 90% of the stories are just fake. They're lies. So, and people say, well, the polls are kind of turning against Donald Trump a little bit on immigration. First of all, I don't believe it. And if the polls turn it off, because all the fake news out there, they're lying about what the President Trump is doing. They're lying about what the men and women of ICE are doing. And that kind of turns, you know, the tide against us a little bit. But that's why, you know, members of the administration are out there every day setting the facts straight. The fact is, I read in the paper the other day, the majority of people who arrest are not criminals. Wrong. Look at the data. Go to ICE.gov and look at the data. But we got some media saying, well, it's just a misdemeanor. It's not a felony. They're not really criminal. Oh, they're not convicted. They're just charged. Oh, they're not criminals. No. We're prioritizing public safety threats and national security threats, and that's a fact.
Don't you love it? Well, I don't believe the polls, but if they are right, I don't believe them either. Like, what? First of all, I don't believe it. And if the polls have turned at all, it's because of the fake news. The polls are fake. I don't believe them. But if they are real, it's because of the fake news. It's all just fake, 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 fake. It's just idiots. Morons. A guy who claims to be, I'm just a cop. I'm just an old cop who's done cop stuff my whole cop life. Yet doesn't know the constraints put upon him by the Constitution of the United States. There's a reason that the burden is on the government. It's the way the system was designed by our founding fathers, by the framers of the Constitution. The same people that Trump and conservatives constantly act like they're our Parthenon statues, these men. If you walk into the rotunda of the United States Capitol, you see the apothecary of George Washington, or whatever it's called, the apotheosis, or whatever it is, on the ceiling of the Pentagon, of the rotunda in the Capitol building. And it's George Washington kind of depicted as a god with angels and people around him. This is how they view them. And then they disregard all of the things that were baked into our system from our founding. That the burden of proof when a case is brought against you by the government is on the government. You don't have to prove your innocence. You're assumed guilty, or you're presumed innocent until proven guilty. But that's not what Tom Homan is saying. In fact, here he is saying that very thing.
I've got to get your reaction to this Biden-appointed federal judge out in Los Angeles, apparently expected today to issue a temporary restraining order halting your lawful operations. She says, I think it's important for the court not to burden otherwise lawful law enforcement activities. Your reaction there?
Look, people need to understand, ICE officers and Border Patrol, they don't need probable cause to walk up to somebody, briefly detain them, and question them. They just need the totality of the circumstances, right? They just got through the observation, get articulable facts based on their location, their occupation, their physical appearance, their actions. Like a uniformed Border Patrol walks up to them at for instance, a Home Depot. And they got all these articulable facts, plus the person walks away or runs away. Agents are trained. What they need to detain somebody temporarily and question them. It's not probable cause, it's reasonable suspicion. We're trained on that. Every agent, every 6 months get Fourth Amendment training over and over again. These officers are really good at what they do. And if this judge would make a decision that's against what these officers are trained, what the law is based upon, then they're going to shut down operation. I think that's their end game. They want ICE to stop doing this. But if they base it on the rule of law, they're going to find out Border Patrol and ICE is doing exactly what they're going to do in accordance with law.
And you're not going to stop coming. Tom Homan, thank you for getting up with us this morning.
Based on their physical appearance, they can stop and detain you. Look, there's a fine line being walked here about what arrest is. You are detained and you are held against your will. You're not booked. It's not an official arrest, but it's an arrest. If you're detained, you're not free to go. And what reason's given? Your appearance. You're brown. I heard you speaking Spanish. I heard you speaking some other language other than English. Since when is that probable cause for arrest, for detainment? If I walk down the shirt and I'm wearing this, I'm wearing my Marine Corps colors here on my pocket square, and someone was Army or whatever, I don't like the look of that. I don't like your appearance. I'm going to stop you. We are treading on very dangerous territory if this is what the President of the United States' current administration is trying to pass off as constitutional. While they raid schools. Remember, they're going after the worst of the worst, they say. While the Secretary of Homeland Security cosplays like she's an actual operator, like she's special forces or something. Or you got fat mushmouth Tom Homan acting like he's some kind of a badass, walking out, twisting his ring and popping his cuffs out of his coat. This is not constitutional. It is not legal. The unfortunate situation that we face ourselves with right now is the fact that Donald Trump has a 6-3 Supreme Court, 3 of whom he appointed there himself, and they are giving him unchecked power, skirting the issue of whether or not he can amend the Constitution through executive order, which clearly he cannot do. And you got the border czar out here mushing it up. This best impression of a melting sex toy, talking about arresting people, detaining people for their physical appearance. While the right wing is gleeful over fascism in the streets. But let me tell you, MAGA, they're coming for you too. It's not just going to be the brown folks. It's not just going to be the people who keep your grocery prices low by being underpaid and overworked in their jobs where they pay taxes and prop up the United States economy. It's not just going to be them. Eventually, Donald Trump will get tired or the job will be complete and he'll have to set his sights on the next target and you'll be it. Because you're poor, you use the government just as much as anybody else, and you'll be the next target. Anyway, what do you think? I would appreciate your feedback here. Don't come at me for, why do you have to use the invective against Tom Homan? Yeah, there's all kinds of things you could say that don't have to do with his looks. Yeah, I'm giving arguments and I'm tossing some ad hominem around. Let a guy have some fun, all right? Anyway, you can comment below. You can also call the voicemail line, 714-576-4054. You can email me, as always, daily@dollemore.com. I'd love to hear from you. And if you appreciate the invectives, the name calling, and the analysis and commentary, you can become a channel member. Click the join button below, and for $2 a month, you can help support this independent media. Eventually, I'm going to need legal defense, right? I joke, but not really. Anyway, you can become a channel member. You can also go to patreon.com/IDoubtIt podcast. Both those are great ways to help support the work that I do here. It also helps support my podcast and Brittany Page's channel, all of it under the same umbrella. We appreciate it very much. I'll see you next time. Follow me on social media @Dollemore. Be genuine. Take care of one another.